We're going to take the time to remember two LA icons, Kobe Bryant and Tommy Lasorda. What is there to say about these GOATs? Find out in this next edition of Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. And we welcome you all back to another edition of Sideline Sports Podcast. I'm the host, Alex Naveja, or if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, a source of all of your SoCal sports news. And you know what? If you guys are a long-time supporter of Sideline Sports Podcast, you guys have to remember the guy on my side right now, Jonathan Ortiz, a colleague of mine, play-by-play broadcaster himself. Jonathan, how are you doing? It's a pleasure to see you, my guy.
Dude, nice to see you too, man. It's been a while. I'm just more than happy to be here, excited to dig in and really go ahead and bring up these awesome memories of two sport icons that we truly miss here in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to start talking about it. But you know what? I like that Kobe poster right there behind you.
Yeah, you like that one, huh?
Digging that one. That was the number 8 days when he would just go up in the air, and it was just crazy. Like he just left you with your jaw dropped. But before we get to that number 8 and 24, let's talk about the number 2. And I'm talking about Tommy Lasorda, unfortunately passing away a couple of weeks ago due to some cardio issues that he had. Some say it was more like a heart attack type of issue. Yeah. And on Wednesday of last week, they had a celebration, a funeral of his life. And even on the Jumbotron, they had a photo of Tommy, and it just looked like a really nice ceremony. And it was just a nice way to remember Tommy's life. And you know what? It's now we're going to celebrate his life and just talk about what we should remember Tommy by, just because of what he's done, what's on his resume as a manager, and what he's been able to do and such. So what are some things that you would say Tommy Lasorda needs to be remembered by?
I think point blank, Tommy Lasorda needs to be remembered for his love of baseball. My goodness. Over the past few weeks, a lot of things have been coming to the surface, some of his most memorable quotes. And one of the things that really sticks out to me was the fact that Tommy Lasorda willingly told his wife that she is second to the Dodgers. I mean, this man's elite was 100% to Dodger Blues. So I think that's definitely something that he wants to be remembered by, as being the biggest Dodgers fan to ever exist. I remember he also mentioned that, when he dies, he wants the Dodgers schedule to be posted on his tombstone. So whenever whenever other people go out to the cemetery to visit their loved ones, what they do is visit their loved ones, then come over to Lasorda's tombstone and check whether or not the Dodgers are playing at home or away. So that just goes to show the amount of love that Tommy Lasorda really had towards his Dodgers organization.
You said it just right. I think they're going to have to be reconstructing that tombstone every year, and every year just going to have to be replacing it, just so that way they have the most current schedule and they stay up to date with the Dodgers. But there was nobody bigger than Tommy Lasorda. He was the Dodgers in that time span. If he were to cut himself, his blood wouldn't turn red. It's blue. And I know everybody says, oh, I bleed blue. It's like, nobody bleeds more blue than Tommy. That's bluer than blue.
Exactly.
It's insane how much of a Dodger fan and how big he was to this organization. I mean, as a manager, to just take him to two World Series champion, to be two-time World Series champions in 1981 and 1988, and then to be a four-time NL pennant champion, along with a two-time manager of the year. Like, just to be able to accomplish any of those accolades is hard, especially
Yeah.
back in the day with all the talented teams that there were back then. It was hard. It was very hard to be Tommy Lasorda at that time.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, the legacy that he established as a manager over the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think the perfect word to describe is simply his passion. I mean, this is a guy who, from the beginning of his career to the end, even up to the point of his death, he was always a fan of the sport. And I think it's really important because I think when you work directly in the industry as a player, as a coach, as a manager, you develop this outlook and you perceive it as solely a business. But I think Tommy Lasorda always stayed true to the love of baseball that was in his heart. And I think that's what resonated most with fans. The fact that as a manager, he wasn't in it for the money. He wasn't in it for the fame. He was in it to win it. And he was in it to bring a title back to Los Angeles. And even till this very day, I think what is most fitting that is that the Los Angeles Dodgers were able to give him one last World Series win after, I think, 32 or 33 years as his final times here on Earth were coming to an end. So I think that's more than welcoming, and I think it's a good end to his legacy, and I'm glad that he was able to see the Dodgers win one last time.
You beat me to the punch, Jonathan. You
Yeah.
definitely beat me to the punch. I was just going to say that Tommy was at least fortunate enough to see the Dodgers win one more. I mean, I can only imagine how he felt about the two in 2017 and 2018. And you know what? It's not all serious with Tommy. This guy's hilarious. This guy is
Oh,
so
yeah, he is, for sure.
funny. Like, I think all the memories that I have of Tommy are just funny memories. Every time I watch a video of him, there's just so many videos of him being funny and him being hilarious. And just, what is your favorite Tommy Lasorda moment?
Um, I think for sure the Philly fanatic was a moment that really stands out in my head because, of course, you know how the story goes. While back in Philadelphia, the Philly fanatic came up with this rag doll that was supposed to, I guess, imitate Tommy Lasorda. And of course, it was a little bit bigger, the torso area. So kind of making fun of Lasorda's image. And then Lasorda literally just jumps out of the dugout, grabs a rag doll, and continues to just beat the Philly fanatic with it. And I think that's absolutely hilarious, man, because I think at that point in time, even though it was comedic to an extent, there was definitely some rage boiling within Lasorda's blood. So that's a big image that definitely stands out. I think another more recent one that I find it so hilarious is when Tommy Lasorda dropped the puck at the Kings game. I believe they were facing the Minnesota Wild. I'm not too sure as to who their opponent was, but I remember that, after dropping the puck, you typically shake the hands of both of the players, one from the home team being the LA Kings and one from the away team. And Lasorda proceeded to solely shake the hand of an LA Kings player, left the other player hanging. It was funny, semi-rude, but what can you expect with Tommy Lasorda? It was just his approach to sports, and you've got to love it, man. You've got to indulge in it, and really just go ahead and embrace what he did for sports as a whole, because I think like I said, he just drove that narrative of it being solely with passion, because at the end of the day, we as fans don't necessarily win anything if the Dodgers win a World Series, or if the Lakers win a championship, but it's just that joy that we feel inside of us and that bond that we form with that team that really is just worthwhile when we get the opportunity to raise the trophy.
Yeah, we definitely go big when it comes to our celebrations. It just feels like we all become one. We're just one huge family, and we do have that connection with our LA teams here in SoCal and having that connection. But going back to what you were talking about with Tommy, he just loved his LA sports, and
Yeah, he did.
like him being rude is always seen as funny. It's always been very funny. I have to say, I have two favorite memories. I'm gonna have to go with when Tommy is talking with the umpire if he should pull his pitcher or not. He's like,
that's right, yeah.
pull him or should I keep him? Oh, I think I'm gonna keep. Oh, I think I'm gonna pull him. I'm gonna take him out. I love that moment. I just absolutely love that moment. And I find it so funny, that whole entire exchange like that. And I loved his fact that he wasn't afraid to get into the umpire's face and just tell him how it was.
Yeah.
another moment that I really liked too, this is more recent with the Dodgers with their World Series run. I believe this was back in 2017 against the Astros. I think Dave Roberts was telling him like, oh, we made it to the World Series, but he told them, pardon my French, everybody. This is a quote directly from Tommy Lasorda, pardon my French, but he said, it doesn't mean shit until you win. So I think that's Tommy. That's all you can say. That's Tommy. And I think that just speaks volumes of his determination of wanting to win. But you know what, Jonathan? Let's step aside. When we come back, let's talk about another LA GOAT that goes by the name of Kobe Bryant. We'll be back.
Perfect. Hi, this is Andrew Garcia, the catcher for the Cal State San Marcos Cougars, and you're watching Sideline Sports Podcast. Enjoy.
And we welcome you all back to the second half of Sideline Sports Podcast. Again, I'm the host, Alex Naveja, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, a source of your SoCal sports news. Again, with me today, a play-by-play broadcaster, colleague of mine, Jonathan Ortiz. First half, we were talking about Tommy Lasorda and that legacy he left all of us, not just here in SoCal, but just all over the nation, and how everyone has remembered Tommy and that dedication to win, and just the biggest Dodger fan in the whole planet. No cap on that. Nobody is a bigger Dodger fan than Tommy. But now let's talk about another great with Kobe Bryant. I mean, there's so many words to say about Kobe's work ethic, his drive to win. And you can say that Tommy and Kobe both just wanting that drive to bring a championship to LA, and just that want, and that just to bring that happiness here in LA and those championships. I mean, Jonathan, take it away. I mean, there's just so much to say about about Kobe and his legacy he left us.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant, I think for sure, really set himself apart with his work ethic. I think a lot of times, when we talk about the GOAT of basketball, there's always two names. There's LeBron James and Michael Jordan. They leave out Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, a lot of people say, was the third best of all time. And I think that is in his work ethic. That Mamba mentality is what really, really established Kobe's legacy. Of course, he has a ton of accolades, MVPs, final MVPs, championships, you name it, he's got it. But I think what really, really, really cemented his legacy was how hard he worked on the court. Countless stories surfaced after his passing, with players remembering the most significant moments. Kobe Bryant was a player that pushed himself beyond limits imaginable. And I think that's something that really resonates with young children up to this day. Even though his passing has definitely left a void here in Los Angeles, one thing that he will always be remembered for is that Mamba mentality. And I think that mentality will be adopted for generations to come.
You said it just right, Jonathan. To finish up with those stats that you're talking about the championships, he finished his career with a full hand of hardware. Also, 18-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champion, 15-time All-NBA awards. He was the 2007-2008 MVP, 2-time Finals MVP, and also 4-time All-Star Game MVP. And of course, Kobe wasn't just known for what he did on the court and that amazing work ethic that he provided, but it was him being a father to 3 daughters. And just listening to other people's interviews and people saying their interactions with Kobe. There was one reporter on ESPN. She said that she asked Kobe, like, what is it like to be the father of 3 daughters? And he said, it's the most amazing feeling in the world to be a father to 3 daughters, and just what he got done off the court as well. And just the amazing person that he was, and what he did when he retired, just to want to be a coach to a girls team, to his daughter's team. And everyone was saying Gianna was going to be that Lady Mamba, and she was going to be the one hissing on the court. And a lot of players also share their experience of they can legit hear Kobe on the side of the court he's hissing for the ball. So it just goes to show you, like, hey, that's where it came from. Him hissing for the ball, asking for the ball instead of just yelling out, hey, like he hissed. Like, that's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's insane what this guy could do. And to me, he's always going to be Mr. Clutch, because I stayed up for those late night games, because at the time, like when I was watching when I was younger and stuff, that was late night for me. I stayed up for those games. I saw Kobe come up with those buzzer beaters, and I lost my mind. I was screaming and I was cheering, and in a couple seconds I heard my parents tell me to shush. They're sleeping,
Course,
but worth a celebrating.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Kobe Bryant was a person who was always exciting to watch on the court. And he was a guy who, I think at all times of the game, always played his heart out. We talk about LeBron James, and, he's testified to it. He doesn't go all out every minute of the game. But like I said, what separates Kobe from the rest of these NBA greats was his work ethic. And that's something that you really have got to appreciate. Every bucket, every game, Kobe Bryant was right behind it. Even when the Lakers were struggling, he was giving his all. Even when they had those really bad seasons in the middle of the 2010s, he was still pushing, hard work. He was still pushing perseverance in practice. And that's one of those things that came with negative backlash, because, people didn't like the way that, he addressed certain situations and problems. But I think it wasn't necessarily, it didn't come from a place of hate. It didn't come from a place of wanting to be, per se a mean person. I think it just came from a place of a champion's heart. I think it came from a place of Kobe Bryant, where all he wanted was for his team and himself to be successful. And I think that's, like I said, what I truly remember him for. This is a man who left everything out on the court, and the same passion that he had behind basketball was the same passion that he was ready to deliver, when he was going into that new chapter of his life, raising his daughters. Unfortunately, it was cut short, but I think his legacy will forever live on and motivate his children to be the best versions of themselves.
He definitely left the best version of himself, and when he left, it definitely was a big shocker to all of us, but his work was done on the court, and now everybody remembers Kobe for that work ethic. And now it's just like in life, whatever you think about, everyone wants to just have that Mamba mentality, having that amazing work with that work ethic that he possesses, and just really tries to get each and every one of us to unleash our best. And, talking about that determination to win, and I know some people will think that he's being rude and he's being mean. No, it's not. Like, it goes back to, if you watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, I know teammates would say, oh, he was mean, he would get in my face and he would do that. It's like, he's not doing it out of trying to diss you or disrespect you or anything.
Yeah, of course.
It was both MJ and Kobe. They want to win. Exactly. And it all starts in practice. You practice the plays that coach gives you, and you have to make sure you execute them perfect, and you have to make sure to be A1 on the practice court, because that's how you're going to execute on the actual court, in the actual game, against some serious competition when Kobe was still playing. So Kobe was one of those that he would approach you during practice, and maybe he would scold you, maybe he would yell you, but again, it's for the best of that player. It wasn't to respect you. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot right now, Jonathan, because I'm still trying to figure out my answer. Which Kobe did you like more, 8 or 24?
All right, so so this is my answer. I'm going to break it down just quite a bit. Well, let me just start off with this. The cool thing about number 8 Kobe was the afro. That's what I just loved about number 8 Kobe. I think from a physical standpoint, the guy just looked like a baller, man. I love the afro. I love the throwback Lakers jersey. All about that number 8 Kobe. But when I think that Kobe truly began to establish his legacy as the Mamba was as a number 24. So for that reason, I'll choose number 24 as my favorite version of Kobe. Early on in Kobe's career, maybe he was caught up with the fame. Maybe he was caught up in, and all the accolades and all the compliments. So I think that kind of deterred him from being the best version of himself. But I think when he put that aside and really just dedicated his life to being the best version of himself as a basketball player is when he began to wear number 24. I think, like I mentioned before, that's when he adopted that Mamba mentality, and that's when he put forward that work ethic that is, set him apart from so many NBA greats.
You bring up some really good points there. I mean, both numbers are really good. I mean, that young number 8 was when he was coming up with those ridiculous dunks in the dunk contest and dunking over Yao Ming, and just with those the 61-pointer, the 81-pointer and such. It's crazy. But I'm going to have to agree with you, and I'm going to have to say 24 also. 24 were a lot of those clutch moments. And yeah, maybe he didn't three-peat while he was number 24, but when he was 24, that's when he was realizing more. He was a mature player. He's
exactly
the guy of the Lakers, the franchise face of the Lakers, where he realized
and leader.
I'm the leader. I have to carry this team to championships. I have to help them. I have to assist them with winning championships. And just, again, I'm more of those last-minute clutch game-winning shots, and that's what I like the most, just when it comes to being Mr. Clutch in the big moments. Can you keep up with the big moments? And you know what? Kobe definitely shoved it in the opponent's face and said, hey, you better watch out for me, because once it's the last 24, I'm wearing 24.
Exactly.
That's my moment.
Exactly.
And with that, we're going to close down the podcast. And once again, we thank you all so much for tuning into this one. Again, Jonathan Ortiz being the guest on the podcast. Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Can't wait to be back.
Definitely, Jonathan. We'll see you again. And guys, if you guys like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. Also, and down in the comments section below, I want you guys to talk about your favorite Kobe memory. Did you like number 8? Did you like 24? And also your favorite Tommy Lasorda moments. What was it that stood out to you for Tommy Lasorda? And also hit the subscribe button down below. We're trying to move up to 300 folks. We're trying to push forward, and we're trying to get this channel as big as possible to bring you guys the best information, the best guests. But I'm Alex Naveca from Sideline Sports Podcast, signing off. We'll see you guys on the next one. And, of course, rest in peace to the legends, Kobe Bryant and Tommy Lasorda.
You're right.